Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Igcse Biology Help. So in today's video, I'm going to be solving the October-November 2021 paper 2 variant 3. If you need the other variants, I have uploaded them on my channel from a few days ago, so check them out if you want. Also, consider subscribing and liking my videos so you can support this channel. Now let's start solving. Question number 1. Which characteristics of living organisms are shown in this photo? Now, over here in this diagram, we know that there is some sort of sensitivity because when the food particle was in contact with this organism, it was like that, like before it was in contact over here. Now, when it was in contact, it did this. So it only did this when it was in contact with it. So that indicates that there is some sort of sensitivity over here. Also, of course, there is movement because as you can see, it was just like that over here. The body looked like that. And then when the food particle came in contact, it extended its body over here, some sort of extension. So we're going to be choosing an option with movement and sensitivity. Now, of course, because this is a food particle, this is going to be nutrition because it's a food particle and it's doing that process. It's doing all of this movement so it can, in the end, gain some nutrition and eat. So we're going to be choosing an option with nutrition, movement, and sensitivity. So let's check which option has whatever I just said now. Now C has the options, so that's going to be the answer. Now question number 2. Two animals have an identical sequence of amino acids in one of the proteins found in their cells. What does this indicate about these animals? Now we know that we can't be choosing this option because the food has different types of protein, and like each food isn't the same, of course. So we can't be choosing that. Now B, they have not been exposed to substance that cause mutation. Now even if they did get exposed to substance that cause mutation, the mutation will not be the same in the animals. So for example, let's say an animal got mutation and the other animal got mutation as well. It will not be the same effect on their bodies as both of them. They will both have different effects, of course. So because like everyone has different DNA, so of course the base sequence will change. And as we all know, of course, mutation is the change in DNA base sequence. So because everyone has unique DNA, nobody has the same DNA as another person. So the mutation will not be the same. So we can't be choosing B as well. Now C, they must be members of the same genus. Now even if they were members of the same genus, they are distantly related. They're not like uh, closely related or something. They're of the same genus. As we know, if they were the same species, then they are more closely related or something. But over here, it's the genus. So they're related but distantly. So we can't be choosing that as well because they said they have an identical sequence of amino acids. So that means they're siblings. So the only option we have over here is D. They share an ancestor. Now, if they share an ancestor, that means they are very closely related compared with having the same genus. Now, question number 3, the diagram shows two guard cells. Which label is correct? Now, they're asking for the correct label and not for the incorrect label. So you guys have to read the question. They're asking for the correct label over here. So, of course, the cell membrane isn't located over here, so this is not correct. The cell wall isn't here, so this is also incorrect. Now, this is correct. The vacuole is over here, as we all know. So, this is actually the only correct option. Now, let's look at D. This is not the cytoplasm. This is actually the cell wall. So, this is also incorrect. So, C is our answer. Now for the length of a mitochondrion in a photomicrograph is 15 millimeter. The actual length of the mitochondrion is 3. What is the magnification of the photomicrograph? Now we know that any question like that comes, it's for the magnification question or actual length. So you have to draw this I like to call the ion triangle. So this helps you to get the magnification. So over here they're asking for the magnification. So we're going to be calculating this by dividing the image by the actual length. So that's going to be over here. They gave us that the length of a mitochondrion in a photo micrograph is 15. So that's probably the image size. Now, before we write that down, you have to convert from millimeters to this unit. Now, how do we convert millimeter? Now, if you're converting millimeter, you have to multiply by 1000. If you're converting centimeter, you have to multiply by 10,000. So this is just an important note you have to know. Now we're converting millimeters, so we're going to be multiplying by 1000, which is going to be 15,000. And then we're going to be dividing over the actual, which is 3. Now you're going to be getting for this question 5,000. So that's going to be our answer. Now, of course, you have to, guys, get with you in the exam a calculator so you can be able to like calculate these questions. And of course, electronic calculators are allowed in this exam. So you have to get one. Over here, it says you may use a calculator. So make sure to get one in your exam. Now, question number 5, the diagram shows some cells. Where are these cells found? Now, we know this is the ciliated cells because of the cilia present on top of the cell. So we know that ciliated cells are actually located in the trachea and in the bronchus. So we're going to be choosing something between these two structures. So our answer over here will be C. Now, number 6, in which diagram would oxygen diffuse into the cell? Now, we know that diffusion is from high concentration to low concentration. So we're going to be choosing something which has a low concentration. So the high concentration would diffuse in. So let's see. Do you want the oxygen to diffuse into the cell? So we have to be choosing the cell having low oxygen because, as we know, the oxygen diffuses from high to low. So we're going to be actually choosing option D because it's high oxygen concentration outside the cell and low inside the cell. So it's going to be moving inside over here. So that's going to be our answer, D. Now, number 7, which statement about the role of the pressure of the water in supporting plants is correct? Now, let's read the option. The pressure of water inside the cells presses inwards onto the cell wall. Now, actually, this is incorrect because it doesn't press inwards onto the cell wall, so this is incorrect. The pressure of water outside the cells presses inwards. Now, the pressure isn't outside the cells, so this is also incorrect. The pressure of water inside the cells presses outwards onto the cell wall. Now, this is absolutely correct because, yes, the pressure of water is inside the cells and it presses outwards onto the cell wall. So it's like that, the cell of the plant, like that, and then the pressure is located over here, and then it will press outward like that onto the cell wall, just like that, so it can create a turgor pressure. So actually the answer is going to be C for this question. Number 8, the bases on one of the strands of a DNA molecule have this sequence shown. Now, what is the corresponding sequence? Now, we know that base A actually bonds with base T, and base C bonds with G and the other way around. G bonds with C and T bonds with A. So we're going to be choosing something that starts with double T. So that's going to be D. Now 9, In a photosynthesis experiment, a plant is left in bright sunlight for several hours. A leaf is then removed from the plant and tested for starch using iodine solution, which I have explained in detail in the paper 6 designing an experiment video if you want to know more about it. The diagram shows the leaf from the plant that was used in the experiment, which diagram shows the result of the experiment. Now we know over here that any green area would turn into blue-black and the white area would remain orange-brown. So we're going to be choosing an area where this is all orange-brown and this is all, let's choose another color so I can demonstrate better. Let's say, for example, this color. We're going to be choosing all of this blue-black. So what is going to be the answer for this question? Now we have to be choosing, now they're saying in the key that iodine solution turns blue-black. So the black actually indicates the blue-black and the white color over here indicates brown. So the white area is going to be brown and the surrounding area is going to be blue-black. So that is exactly option C. Now in the surrounding areas, it was over here blue-black, as they have said in the key, and it was green in this diagram over here. They said it was green, and in the middle it was white, which remained brown. So this is actually our answer. Now question number 10. An experiment was carried out to investigate the effect of pH on enzyme action. The graph shows the results. What are the labels for the x-axis and the y-axis? Now, we know that the x-axis has the independent variable and the y-axis will have the dependent variable, which I have again explained in the paper 6 video if you want to know further about this. So our answer will be A, because pH is the independent variable and y is the dependent variable, because the sentence over here says that. So number 11, 4 test tubes were set up as shown in the diagram. In which test tube is starch digested most quickly? Now we're going to be choosing between here. That's because the water bath is at temperature 35, which means it is at its near its optimum temperature, which is 37. So of course it's going to be faster in this test tube or in this tube of water. Now over here it's 15. It's going to work, it's going to be digested, but slower than over here. So we're going to be choosing between C and D. Now over here in C, they're saying the starch solution and the amylase are present in this test tube. So so far so good. The water bath, which is the temperature, is at 35, which is near the optimum. The starch is present on amylase, so everything's good. Now let's check D. Starch solution and boiled amylase. Now, if the amylase enzyme is boiled, that means it's denatured. So the active site changed and the substrate no longer fits into the enzyme active site. So this will not work and the starch will not be digested. So we're going to be choosing C for our answer. Now number 12. 2 similar leaves are set up in the test tubes as shown. One is exposed to light while the other is kept in the dark. Now let's I'll tell you something now. If it's exposed in the light, then of course this is photosynthesis. Now if it's in the dark, then the plant will respire because it's not gaining any sunlight or light. So now we know that the hydrogen carbonate indicator over here, they're asking for the colors if it was in the light and the dark. Now the light, which means photosynthesis, which means there is oxygen produced, and oxygen is an alkaline gas, so that means the hydrogen carbonate indicator will be purple, because purple in the hydrogen carbonate indicator is for the alkaline. So we're going to be choosing something where the oxygen is test tube has purple color, which is this test tube. which is exposed to the light. So now the dark, which is actually the respiration, which is going to release carbon dioxide, is going to be yellow, because as we know, the hydrogen carbonate indicator is yellow when there is acidic gas, and we know that carbon dioxide is actually an acidic gas. So our answer will be B, because the light was purple, as I said over here, and the dark was yellow because as we know, it was respiring. So that is going to be our answer, 12B. Now, question number 13. The diagram shows part of a leaf cross-section. Which cells can carry out photosynthesis? Now, any cell that has chloroplast, as I have drawn over here, this one, and this one. This one is the palisade mesophyll cell. This one is the spongy mesophyll cell. And this one is the guard cells. As we can see, this one has chloroplast, the black spots, and this one also has some chloroplast. Also over here, it's very small, but it's there, as you can see. Now we're going to be choosing an option that has number 2, number 5, and number 4. So C has the numbers that I've just written over here. Now, number 14, which part of the alimentary canal produces an enzyme that digests protein? Now, we know that protein can be digested by protease, or pepsin, or trypsin. So we're going to be choosing over here, the protease is from the pancreas, and the pepsin and trypsin is from the stomach. So we're going to be choosing either the pancreas or stomach. So let's check which organs are labeled over here. So of course, this is the pancreas, and it's not labeled. So we're not going to be choosing the protease because it's not labeled. Now B will not work because this is the salivary amylase, and salivary amylase doesn't break down protein. So this is incorrect. Now A is the liver. Of course, the liver doesn't produce any enzymes, so we're not going to be choosing A. Number D is the large intestine, and it's not going to work because it doesn't secrete any enzymes that break down protein. Our only option, which is the stomach option that I have mentioned earlier. So it produces, again, pepsin and trypsin, so that's going to be the answer. Now, number 15, the diagram shows a large food molecule changing into smaller molecules. What is process X? Now, over here, they were all like joined together with like sort of a bond. And then after process X, they're all like not joined together, and they're all like scattered all over the place. So this is going to be digestion, because we can't say it's chewing, because chewing is actually mechanical. And molecules, they have mentioned like chemical molecules over here, so we can't be choosing that at all. So some people will confuse whether the answer is B or C, but actually it's C because this is chemical digestion, as we can see over here. Number 16, how is the structure of root hair cells related to their function? Now we know that root hair cells looks like something like that, and they have a function of absorption of maybe ions, because they do active transport. So we're going to be choosing, also they are having large surface area over here, so they also can kind of increase the surface area. So let's see the options. A, they have chloroplast for photosynthesis. B, their cell wall is partially permeable. Now, option A is incorrect because root hair cells don't contain chloroplast because they're under the ground. So they wouldn't need chloroplast because they're not exposed to light anyways. B, their cell wall is partially permeable. Now we know that any cell wall is actually fully permeable, which means they can allow anything inside. So really this is an incorrect option. Now C, they have large surface area to increase the rate of mineral ion uptake. Now this is correct because as we know that it performs active transport to allow the absorption of mineral ions. So we're going to be choosing C. Now D option is incorrect because both the cell wall and cell membrane control the active uptake of mineral ions. Now this is incorrect because it's only the cell membrane which has protein carriers. So cell wall isn't really related to what is going on over here. Now, number 17, in plants, how are amino acids moved between the sources and sinks? Now, we know that amino acids and sucrose actually move in a tube called the phloem and not the xylem. The xylem moves water and inorganic ions. So, phloem is for the amino acids and sucrose, which also performs translocation, other words. So it's amino acids and sucrose, really. So we're going to be choosing an option with translocation because they said between the sources and sinks, which will give us a hint that this is about the translocation. So by translocation through phloem tissues, not xylem. Xylem is actually a unidirectional tissue, and translocation is bidirectional, which means unidirectional means it will just move in one direction, like this. It will move from the soil to the leaf to transport the water from the roots into the leaf, and it will not go downward. So this is just unidirectional, which means one direction. Now, the phloem, on the other hand, can move upwards into the source and downwards into the sink over here. So it can both move upwards and downwards, which means it is bidirectional, and uni, which means it moves in just one direction. So this is just an important thing you need to note down. Now 18, which component of blood produces antibodies? Now we know that antibodies are released or secreted by something called the lymphocytes. So we're going to be choosing A for this question. Now 19, the diagram shows the external structure of the human heart. Which label identifies a coronary artery? Now, we know the coronary artery is an artery that provides nutrients and oxygen to the heart, so it can perform respiration in order to provide energy for the muscle contraction. So it's going to be D over here. This is the only blood vessel that actually connects the heart over here. Now 20, which row shows what happens at the start of inspiration? Now we know in inspiration there is some processes that go on. Now diaphragm actually contracts and it flattens. When it contracts, it flattens, so it becomes like something like that. And when it's relaxed, it's like this. So it flattens to allow the volume to increase in the thorax, to allow the more volume for the air to enter. So more air enters into your lungs. Now internal intercostal actually relaxes, and it's actually the opposite of the external intercostal muscles. So it's actually going to be relaxed, and the external is going to be contracted over here. So now the pressure inside the lungs will decrease. So the pressure from the atmosphere can move into the lungs or the thorax, because as we know that pressure moves from the high concentration to the low concentration. So there has to be lower pressure and higher volume in the thorax in order for the air to move inside. So pressure decreases and volume increases. So always the volume is the opposite of pressure. So there's no way there is high pressure and high volume. So we have to, like, both of them have to be the opposite. So let's see which option has the diaphragm as contracts and the internal intercostal muscles as relaxed, and the external intercostal muscles as contraction. So over here, also we have to check the air pressure and the volume, as I have talked about them over here. Now the volume increases. So far this is correct. Diaphragm contracts. This is correct as well. Internal intercostal muscles contract. This is they don't contract over here, so this is also correct. External intercostal muscles contract. Now this is correct. Air pressure in the thorax increases. Now also this is correct. So we're going to be choosing for this question A. Now question number 21. Some features that help to defend the body against pathogens are listed. Which features can prevent pathogens from entering the body tissues? Now this is a keyword right here. Prevent pathogens entering the body tissues. So that means these structures are supposed to prevent the pathogens from entering the body itself. It's not going to be acting after the pathogens are inside the body. So over here, mucus is a form of a chemical barrier, so we're going to be choosing that. Skin is also a mechanical. Stomach acid is a chemical. And phagocytosis, well, this will not work in this question because phagocytosis is actually like the engulfing of bacteria and pathogens. So this is when the pathogens are already in the body tissues. So right now we are trying to see how these structures, or we're trying to see which structures will prevent the pathogens from entering the body itself. So phagocytosis will not work. So we're going to be choosing an option with 1, 2, and 3. Now this is exactly not option B. Question number 22. The diagram shows the human gas exchange system. Which row shows the correct labels? Now, first of all, 1 is going to be the larynx and not the trachea. The trachea is this section over here, and it's not this one. This is the larynx. So 2 is going to be the trachea, and 4 is going to be the diaphragm, of course, and 3 is going to be the bronchus. So let's see. So 1 is the larynx, 2 is the trachea, 3 is the bronchus, and 4 is the diaphragm. So let's see which of the options over here indicate the right things that I have just said right now. So 1, trachea. No, this is incorrect. B says 1 is larynx. So far, this is correct. 2 is trachea. So far, correct. And 3 is bronchus. 4 is diaphragm. So far, this is all the correct options. So our answer will be B for this question. Now D is saying that 3 is actually the diaphragm and it's not the bronchus, so of course this is incorrect. So 23, what is the equation for anaerobic respiration? So we have to make sure this is the anaerobic respiration, not the aerobic. And in yeast, so in humans we have lactic acid produced, but in yeast there is different equations. So let's see. Over here this will not work because this is actually aerobic respiration. This will not work because it's just producing alcohol. Now this one is actually the correct one because this is alcohol and this is the CO2, which is carbon dioxide, using glucose. So our answer will be C. Now question number 24, the diagram shows a kidney tubule. In which part of the tubule is the glucose concentration the highest? Now we know it is the highest one entering the kidneys, and then later on it is reabsorbed 100%. So A is going to be the answer. Now question number 25, what happens to the muscles in the iris when a person moves from bright light to low light? So we know in bright light the circular muscles actually contract and the radial muscles relax. So also in the low light or in the dim light, the circular muscles do the opposite. They actually relax and the radial muscles contract. So this is in case of bright light and this is in low light. So we're going to be choosing an option where it is in low light because they said the person moves from brightly lit room to a dimly lit room. So now they are in the dim light. So we can't be choosing A or C. That's because they don't both relax or contract in the same time. They're antagonistic muscles, which means if one contracts, the other must relax, and if one relaxes, the other must contract. So they're basically the opposite. So over here, we're going to be choosing between B and D. Now, this is B is option for the bright light, so this is not going to be the answer. D, the circular muscles relax and radial muscles contract. Well, this is exactly what is written in the low light box that I have said over here. So the answer is going to be D. Now, 26, what happens when a person has low glucose concentration? Low blood glucose concentration. So insulin is released. No, insulin is released when there is high blood glucose concentration, not low. Glycogen is released from the pancreas. No, well, glycogen isn't a hormone. So this is incorrect, and it's actually glycogen is in the liver, not the pancreas anyways. So this is incorrect. Glucagon is released from the liver. Well, this is incorrect. So it's released from the pancreas because it's a hormone. Now the only correct option is going to be D. Glucose is released from the liver. Now, question number 27, how can the development of antibiotic resistance in bacteria be reduced? So, we're trying to reduce the antibiotic resistance, not increase. So, treating every disease with antibiotics, well, this is, of course, going to increase the antibiotic resistance because we never know if this disease is from virus or from bacteria. So, this is, of course, incorrect. Treating infections caused by a virus with antibiotics, now, this is the biggest mistake. If you do that, you're going to be increasing the antibiotic resistance in a person because antibiotics aren't supposed to be used on viruses. They're supposed to be used on bacteria. So this is incorrect, of course. Now C, using antibiotics only when essential. Well, this is correct because when you use an antibiotic only when essential, you're decreasing the effect of antibiotic resistance. So therefore, your body won't be resistant to this type of bacteria. So C is going to be the correct option. Now, question 29, they want the structural adaptation of wind-pollinated flowers. So they have long filaments so that the anthers hang outside of the flower. Now, this is correct. They have round, sticky sepals to trap pollen grains. Now, this is incorrect because the sepals don't actually trap the pollen grains. Their large petals protect the stigma. Now they don't have large petals. This is actually for the insect pollinated flowers. So D, their stamens are feathery, so there is large surface area. Now this is incorrect because it's actually not the stamens that are feathery. So our answer will be A for this question. Now question number 30. What are likely consequences of HIV infection? Decreased lymphocyte numbers, reduced active immunity, and 3, reduced passive immunity. Now, for sure that we know that lymphocyte numbers are going to decrease because HIV infection actually decreases the lymphocyte numbers over time. Reduced active immunity because of reduced lymphocyte numbers. Passive immunity will actually be also not reduced because passive immunity is not caused by memory cells or lymphocytes. It's actually caused by antibodies that are obtained from outside, not from inside the body. So our answer for this question will be B. Now 31, which row is correct for the type of cell? Now body cell is diploid and sets of chromosome is 2. Well, this is actually correct. 32, which structures in bacterial cells synthesize protein? Now we know that ribosomes are actually the site of protein synthesis, so that's going to be the answer. 33, a man with blood group AB and a woman with blood group O have a child. What are the correct percentages of the possible blood groups for the child? Now we know that AB and OO is going to get us an AO child or an AO child, BO child, or BO child. So there is a 50-50% of getting an A or getting a B, blood group child. So the answer for this question is going to be A. Now 34. Which statement about a person who is heterozygous for the sickle cell allele is correct? They are not resistant to malaria. Well, this is incorrect, because as we know that if they are resistant to malaria because they have the sickle cell allele and they are heterozygous, so we're not going to be choosing any of the they are not resistant to malaria options. Now C, they are resistant to malaria and their genotype is HbA and HbS. Well, this is correct, so the answer is going to be 34C. Now, a species of insect usually have pale colored wings. This helps them to camouflage on pale colored tree trunks. A few of the insects in the species have dark colored wings. After a number of years, the tree trunks become darker in color due to environmental changes. Now, this is really similar to the example of butterflies in the natural selection lesson, where when the tree trunks were dark, there were a larger number of dark colored wings butterflies, but when the tree trunks were white, there were a larger number of white butterflies. So we're going to be choosing natural selection because this is as a result of the environmental changes and not the human changes. Now, which letter represents denitrification? Now we know that denitrification is the conversion of nitrate into nitrogen in the atmosphere. So we're going to be choosing nitrate into nitrogen, so that is exactly denitrification. Now 37, reasons why bacteria might be used in biotechnology and genetic engineering are listed. Which reasons make bacteria useful in biotechnology and genetic engineering? Now, all bacteria are harmless. Now, this is not really a main reason. Bacteria contain plasmids. Now, this is a reason because it's used in genetic engineering. Now, bacteria share this same genetic code as other organisms. This is also a reason. There is a lack of ethical concerns about using bacteria. Now, this is also correct. So we're going to be choosing B, 2, 3, and 4. 38. Bacteria can be genetically engineered to produce human proteins such as human insulin. Which enzyme is used to join the human gene and the bacterial plasmid together to create a recombinant plasmid? Now we know that the restriction enzyme actually restricts or removes the human gene and the bacterial plasmid, but they don't join it together. What actually joins the both of the DNA and the bacterial plasmid is the DNA ligase, not lipase. Lipase is the enzyme that breaks down fat. Now, question number 39. The bar chart shows the tolerance of some river organism to different levels of pH. Which organism would be the most affected if the pH of a river decreased from pH 6 to pH 5.5? Now, we're going to be looking at the animals or the organisms that were in pH 6 and over here weren't present in the pH 5.5 because these are going to be the most affected. So in pH 6, there was nearly every animal, but in pH 5.5, there was 2 animals that were absent. It was the clams and the snails. So it's actually going to be C for this question because they were the most affected. As you can see, they were absent from the difference between pH 6 and 5.5. So that's going to be the answer there. 40. What is meant by a sustainable resource? A resource that is produced by non-intensive farming. No, this is incorrect. So we're going to be basically looking for the definition of sustainable resource. A resource that is removed from a habitat without changing the environment. Now, this is not the definition, so it's not going to be the answer. A resource that does not pollute the environment. This is not the definition. Now D, a resource that is produced as rapidly as it's removed from the environment. Now this is actually the definition of the sustainable resource. So That is the answer D. Now, thank you for watching. This was all the questions. There is a blank page after that. So thank you for watching. Please consider subscribing to my channel and liking my videos, and good luck with your exam.